Hey there, it's Jules from Tarot Adventures with Jules. I'm here today to chat with Shaniqua Leach, the incredibly talented creator of That Afro Drip Tarot. Excuse me, I can't find my words. Shaniqua and I had a chat just about a year ago, last July, and it was so much fun. And I'm very, very excited to catch up and see how the deck has developed since then. Not that anything needs to change, evolve, or develop, or hi, I'm rambling. I am so excited to have the opportunity to chat with you again about your phenomenal deck. Oh my
Thank
goodness.
you.
Oh, thanks so much for joining me. This is amazing. Um,
Absolutely.
how's your weekend going?
It's been a little bit chaotic. My daughter's also a Gemini, like you and I, and her birthday is tomorrow. So we're having a birthday party, and there's been lots of preparations for that, but it's been a pretty good day.
Oh, that's so exciting. How old is she turning?
She's turning 7.
Oh my goodness, that's so awesome. My son just turned 10 in May, and I can't believe that my youngest is in double digits now. It's like
Yeah.
wonderful yet bittersweet. I'm just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's like every single birthday, I'm just like, you're getting so big, and like you used to be just this little bread loaf, and now you're like turning into like a whole human, and it's like,
Oh, I
it's
know, I know. My eldest is 14 now, and she's 5'3.5. And
oh.
I still remember the day she was born, and she was this like tiny little being, and now she's like a grown-up human, and she's got her own personality and wants and needs and all the things that she should have. But as a parent, it's always bittersweet, you know? Like I love to see her grow and evolve. I just wish I could pause time sometimes, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's yeah, yeah, for
Same.
sure. So yeah, I was looking at the reels, and I think the last time we spoke, it was almost a year ago. I think it was last July. Um, I am so excited to talk to you about your deck. It is utterly phenomenal, and it has been so exciting for me to watch you develop all of the cards over the past year and a bit that you've been working on it. I just love how much you share of your process and the different stages that all the illustrations go through and everything. So I'd love to hear a little bit more. I mean, I know quite a bit about the deck because we've spoken before, but for anyone who's maybe new to it, did you want to maybe describe the concept and your approach and how that all came about?
Sure. So that was, thank you so much for the introduction that you gave. It was lovely. Like Jules already said, my name is Shaniqua, and I am the creator of That Afro Drip Tarot. So if anyone, is just finding us or, new to the deck, That Afro Drip Tarot is a 78 card Rider-Waite Smith based tarot deck. And I designed it primarily because all of the decks, or the vast majority of the decks that I had, didn't represent me and my people and my culture and our features. And it just felt like I was missing in my own practice in a way. So I decided I was just going to make my own deck. Initially, I kind of wanted to wait for someone else to make the perfect deck for me, but after a while, I just kind of realized, I'm someone, and I can learn how to make images, make art. So I just bought a ton of courses on digital art, on anatomy, on line weight, color theory. I mean, you name it. If it was art related and there was an online course like 25 bucks or below on it, I purchased it and, just consumed as much information as I could. Um, and eventually I just started sketching card ideas or writing out, like with words, the ideas that I would have for cards. And um, I decided to start sharing those images on Instagram primarily, not as a way to promote the deck, but it was just to share the art. But the response was so like overwhelmingly positive, with people saying, I want this set of cards in my collection, that I decided, okay, let's see if we can get this project funded. So it's on Kickstarter right now. The Like I said, the deck is going to be the standard 78 cards, but I have 8 left to finish. The pages and the queens are finished, so all the pips, you know, ace through 10 are fully illustrated. Those are done. The major arcana is done. So I just have the knights and the kings left to illustrate. But I actually have rough sketches for all 4 of the knights, and I'm quite far on the Knight of Wands. And I think it was yesterday I actually posted a black and white version of the Knight of Wands as he looks right now. So if anyone's interested, you can definitely check that out. But yeah, I just wanted a tarot deck that was modern with images that sort of made the meanings a little bit clearer and easier to understand, so I could reduce some confusion that I had as a new reader, and
Yeah.
to work with cards where I didn't, you know, feel like I was working with something that wasn't meant for me. So that's
Yeah.
how that Afro Drip Tarot came to be.
Oh, I love that so much. And I don't know about you, but I find some of the most powerful projects are the ones that come from someone filling a gap, right? Like you're looking everywhere for something that fits what you're looking for. And then there comes that moment that you described so beautifully where you're like, okay, well, why not me? Why don't I create that thing that I've been missing, right? And I think everyone deserves to see themselves represented in the tarot. And there's a beautiful connection that can be made when you see something on the card that speaks to your own experience. And I just love that you have crafted something so beautifully, might I add. I'm so in awe of the fact that you have just kind of taken all these courses and somehow magically created something that is so beautiful. Like, following along with your journey has been such a privilege, like being able to see the line sketch drawings and how you layer everything and add the different colors and create something that, from the perspective of someone who doesn't draw, is just astounding. Like I'm quite in awe. And I love all of the vibrant color that you've included in the cards, and it just feels like such a slice of life. You know, you can see the experiences that the figures that you're representing are experiencing, and it fits so beautifully with the archetype of the tarot and the journey, not just the fool's journey through the major arcana, but the journey through each of the suits. So you've shifted the titles of a couple of the suits, I think. Is Cups Vessels, am I right
Mm-hmm.
in saying that? Yeah. So what inspired that shift? Because I love it for you.
Um, well, I kind of wanted something that didn't sound so mundane as a cup.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with imbuing the magical into the mundane. I think that's actually really important to do. But for me, the tarot itself just feels like you're holding some magic when you have a deck in your hands. It really feels
Yeah.
special once you actually see the archetypes in those visual representations. So the sound, like just the sound of the word cup, didn't quite evoke what I think the suit of water is about.
Yeah.
And water being what it is, something that needs a vessel, a container to take shape. It just kind of felt like a natural correlation to the element of the suit to say vessels rather than cups, because even though they serve the same purpose, vessel felt a bit more spiritual, and it felt like it had a more general or broader connotation than a cup does, which I felt would probably aid with like applying the card to the reading in question being asked rather than the meaning associated with the card pulled. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the idea of a vessel. It's so much more sentient and tangible than a cup, because really, as human beings, we're vessels. We're holding all kinds of, we're a container of emotions and thoughts and feelings and all of these things, right? And I just love that that's such a tangible representation of that relationship with that particular suit. It's beautiful.
thank you.
So when you were going through the process of making the deck, was there one suit in particular that you felt more challenged by? What was your favorite suit to work on? Were there particular cards that you found especially easy or more challenging? Like, what was that process like?
Well, once I finished the majors, part of the process of making that Afro Drip Tarot was I decided to do the cards in order. So starting at 0,
Mm-hmm.
the Fool, and then going, you know, Magician all the way up to the World. And then I sort of debated if I was going to do Ace to King for the suits,
Mm-hmm.
or if I was going to work on just the pips and then the courts. And I decided to do pips and then courts. So once I made that decision, there was just a lot of anxiety when it came to the Ace of Wands, or which became the Ace of Scepters, because
Yeah.
it was like, oh God, I'm out of the majors. Like, this has to be consistent because it's going to be its own suit, but there's going to be 3 other aces. So like, what are my aces going to look like? So there was just all of the Gemini 2-minded like craziness happening in my psyche when I started on the Ace of Wands for sure.
Yeah.
I think the 2 of Cups was challenging, but in a fun way. Um,
Yeah.
because I really wanted to keep some of the symbolism from the Rider-Waite-Smith depiction of the
Mhm.
cards, but I didn't want the deck to feel like the scenes were taking place in another time. Um,
Yeah.
so what I wound up doing was taking the lion's head and caduceus symbol from
Mhm.
the Rider-Waite-Smith and putting that above a couple on a beach. But it felt sort of modern to me because the girl is the perspective of the card is we're looking at the girl and she's laying on her stomach reading a book, but her boyfriend we can barely
Yeah.
see because he's like laying his head on her butt, and he's like asleep. So I kind of wanted to give that feeling of like intimacy and connection, but also individuality because she's doing one thing and he's doing another, but they're together. And to me, I felt like what I created just really captured the feeling of that card. So it was a challenge because I didn't know how to bring in that symbolism, but I felt like that lion's head and those snakes intertwining actually looked really good above that couple with the colors of the
Yeah.
sky. The sky is like pink and yellow, and it just I
Yeah.
love working on that one. That one was really, really fun. Plus, that one is
Yeah.
I'm putting the astrological correspondences on all of the cards. So
Oh, I
that
love
helped me to learn more of the tarot as well. And I learned
Mhm.
that 2 of Cups correlates to Venus in Cancer. And I actually have that
Mhm.
natal placement. So it just
Oh,
felt
that's so
like,
cool.
yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And I love that she's reading a book and they're hanging out together. Like, I don't know about you, but when you can be in a relationship with someone where you can have comfortable silence.
Hmm.
Like, I remember the first time I did that with my husband. We were in university and he was working on a paper and I was working on a paper and we just kind of sitting in my bachelor apartment. And it was the first time in my life, I think, that I've ever experienced companionship in silence and quiet and just that perfectly content feeling of being at peace with someone else. And that's so beautiful because it sounds like there's that element of that in that depiction, which is so lovely. And it's such a Venus and Pisces vibe, or in Cancer vibe, rather, like that sense of connection and community and peace, right? Like, I love that so much. That's amazing.
Like I love that you said peace because that's really the
Mhm.
main thing I wanted to evoke. I like the Rider-Waite 2 of Cups, but it looks more
Mhm.
ceremonial to me. The way the figures are
Mhm.
sort of meeting and presenting these cups to each other could
Yeah.
definitely be a romantic ceremony, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I wanted to sort of shift that visual representation to where it was just like these people are at peace with each other, where they don't need
Yeah.
to be in each other's face, but they can be sort
Mhm.
of like separate together. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I love that she said that.
Oh, it's so empowering to have that kind of connection with someone, right? Because I know anytime I feel uncomfortable, this is probably a total Gemini thing. I feel like I need to fill the silence with something,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
Whether it's like dialogue, whether it's like something, right? So
Hmm.
being in that state of peace and contentment is huge and a really good sign for any relationship, I think. Not that everything has to be that way, but it's nice when that happens, I
I
think.
I
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
definitely.
So how did you get over your overwhelm with that Ace of Wands? Because I would imagine shifting from majors to minors, like it's a shift in mindset. You know, you're going from the big picture to little picture, and it's not little, like the day-to-day events that we experience are still huge, but it's definitely a shift. So how did you conquer that for yourself?
um. Well, I took breaks, and I still take breaks if I feel like I'm pushing myself too much to try to draw every single day or to draw for a certain number of hours a day, I can feel it in my work. And so if I feel that, I try to be aware enough to say, all right, to do your best work, you have to stop working for a little while. So I remember I did take a good, probably 2.5 week break where I just didn't draw for a little while. And I wrapped my mind around the fact that I have a finished set of major arcana.
That's so exciting.
But then I just kind of asked myself, what does the Ace of Wands mean? You know, that passion, spark, that excitement, taking action, the idea, right? And just kind of like asked spirit to help me channel that meaning into an image. And it's really funny. You hear a lot of artists say this, but whether it's a book or a sculpture or a series of paintings that becomes a tarot deck, sometimes it really feels less like I am putting my ideas onto a canvas and more like something exists somewhere outside of this physical realm and it has chosen to come through me. And the Ace of Wands was kind of one of those things because it was my first time illustrating like a desert. And it was really challenging to indicate something that doesn't have sharp edges, but clearly still has form and texture. But after I kind of like said, Spirit, I need your help. Let me like be ace. I like started getting all these ideas. Okay, so what if I look up a tutorial on how to draw sand dunes? I'm sure someone's done it. And so I did that. And then that led me to another suggestion and another suggestion. And like 3 hours later, I had a finished sand dune scene like on my canvas. And I remember kind of stopping and being like, how did that happen? Where did that come from? So like, I think the main thing was definitely the break. The break helped, but sort of surrendering, for lack of a better term, to spirit and like putting my intention out there and directly asking, hey, help me make a cool Ace of Scepters. That and it pushed me over that hump of like awe at finishing the majors, but like fear from starting the pips. It kind of helped push me to where it was like, the spark was so strong that there was no time to second guess or doubt myself because I was pulled by it. You know, these ideas grabbed me, you know, I was doing things and then it was like, oh snap, I painted something that looks okay.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that's such pure Ace of Wands energy too, right? That source of inspiration and staying open and receptive to whatever comes. Like I love that so much. Yeah, that's amazing. Oh my gosh, I love it. I don't know, like, but anytime I've created anything that feels like it's worth anything, I've kind of had to step aside and let whatever it is come through. And oftentimes it's in a different form than I would have anticipated if I had, in my usual style, overthought it and tried to control or manipulate something. So it's really, really cool. So how did you arrive on scepters for wands? I love it.
I think the main thing was, to me, when I hear the word wand, I think of like a 12-inch stick of wood, you know? And even in the Rider-Waite-Smith depiction, they don't look like that. They look more like staffs or staves or scepters. Absolutely. But to me, a staff, I consider it staff. I consider it staves, which is, you know, just an alternate plural form. But because that's the fire suit, kind of bringing it back to the elements, I really wanted to think about the elemental correlation of the pips as well. And because fire is, you know, something that it's powerful, you know, it can be used to sustain life, to cook food, to heat something, or it can be all consuming and destroy. But we associate it with, you know, in astrology, Mars, that's the planet of action and passion. And I thought about all of these things and I just didn't feel that energy correlated in staff or in the word wand. The power aspect of it, that the spurring to action aspect of fire, I wanted to try to find a suit emblem that captured that. So similarly to how I thought about vessels, a scepter feels more, it feels crafted. You know what I mean? Like when I hear the word scepter, I think of something that has been created, not something that looks raw, kind of like the sticks in the Rider-Waite do, or like a wand from like Harry Potter. Even though those were crafted, a lot of them had more of a rough kind of look to them. And that natural look felt more earthy to me than fiery.
Yeah.
So when I thought about the word scepter, I just thought, who carries a scepter? Someone who's in charge, someone who can give an order, and the action is done. Exactly. So I just was like, it just felt, it felt right. And it felt like I could illustrate something that would be similar to the Rider-Waite Smith wands, in that it's, you know, a long stick of wood essentially, but also kind of dress it up and put my own spin on it and really evoke that power that I associate with fire. So
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I love it. So what was your sequence for the minor arcana? You did wands. Did you follow that up with cups or?
I did wands, cups, swords, pentacles. And I've actually renamed all the suits. So now they are scepters, vessels, blades, and coins.
Oh, I love that so much.
Thank you.
So what was it like working with the blades? I find, probably because I'm in my head so much, I find swords are the most challenging suit for me personally. And of course, there's some tricky cards in there that can, you know, bring our attention to challenges, like the Three of Swords, the Nine of Swords, the Ten of Swords, right? There's some cards that I wouldn't say anything is inherently negative or positive, but often those particular cards can draw my attention to something that isn't so warm and fuzzy. So what was that process like working with that suit?
So I was actually really excited to get to the swords, mainly because, like I said, I was studying the astrological correspondences. And so I knew that the three Gemini cards are the Eight of Swords, Nine of Swords, Ten of Swords. And even before I knew that information, I know it might be a bit weird. It's definitely out of the norm for tarot readers, but the swords was actually my favorite suit. I think because it's the air suit, I'm an air sign. And even though a lot of the traditional illustrations in that suit are the more challenging ones in the overall set of 78, in my personal practice, when I pull swords cards, I find many times those readings are the most poignant and the most impactful, and the ones that kick me in my ass enough to like put me back on track. You know, it's one thing if you check in with spirit and say, hey, how am I doing on this thing? And you get like Ace of Coins or you get the Star. It's another if you pull the Nine of Swords and it's like, you need to get out of your head because you're making mountains out of molehills and you're stressing yourself out and you'll get sick. And if you can't sleep, then you won't have the energy to do this thing to the end. You know what I mean? Like in my practice, the swords were just, they, and you know what else? I'm sort of going on a tangent, but
I love it.
very, very first day that I read tarot was with an app on my phone. And, I will never forget this because it was so scary, for lack of a better term, having such accurate keywords associated with these cards I was getting in this app, you know, in context to the question I was asking. But I had, in the first question I asked, I typed the question into the app. And I remember I got the chariot and it freaked me out because when I read the meaning, it was spot on to what I was asking. But I was very skeptical. And so I told myself, no, you know what? It's because I typed the question in. There must be some part of the code in this app that when you type it in, it's going to read it or, you know, look for keywords that might match in this set. So I told myself, okay, I'm just going to ask another question and hold it in my head without typing it in. And without going into detail, I was asking about a romantic situation that I knew I had no business being in. And I pulled the Three of Swords. Now, imagine you know nothing about tarot, but you get such a clear visual, like a big red heart with three swords stabbed through it. When you're asking about a situation you know you shouldn't be in, it was so freaky and scary, but so mesmerizing. And
Yeah.
the chariot did it, but that Three of Swords cemented it. So I know that was like a long tangent, but when I got to the swords, I really wanted to honor the fact that that suit is known for being the difficult ones or the challenging cards, or I don't like to say bad or scary cards, but I know a lot of people do describe the sword suit that way. Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to honor that because it's part of
Yeah.
the tarot. But at the same time, because I was making something with my own perspective and the sword suit has been so helpful for me, um,
Yeah.
I wanted to try and find illustrations that I shouldn't say find, but create. But like I
Yeah.
said, sometimes it feels like these things exist already and they come
Yeah.
through. Um,
Yeah.
but I wanted to make illustrations that would honor the challenging aspects of the air suit because the mind can only interpret reality. It cannot see it as it is. So there's
Yeah.
always going to be some sort of challenge inherent in that. Even
Mhm.
with communication, you know, we can
Mhm.
try to find the most precise terms to convey what we mean. But if someone
Yeah.
doesn't use those terms the same way, it won't land the way we want it to. So I
Mhm.
wanted to honor that challenge, but also illustrate the beauty of the fact that we are metacognizant beings. So
Yeah.
the fact that we can think about our thoughts gives us
Yeah.
so much power. And I wanted it to
Mhm.
be where, yes, if you pull the Three of Swords and you don't know what tarot means, if you pull it from that Afro Drip Tarot, it's still going to be the Three of Swords. But then you see this little row of these bleeding heart flowers at the bottom that kind of
Yeah.
pulls you away from that big red heart for a second and makes you think about
Mhm.
growth, or you know,
Yeah.
what's natural in this air cycle, because I've got these natural elements there. And you know, I just wanted to put a little bit more beauty into what people, in my opinion, too often dismiss as just being bad or negative or challenging. So I tried to do that, even with like another example, the Seven of Blades.
Yeah.
um that is one of my favorite Blades cards, because it was a
Yeah.
challenge for me. I wanted to,
Yeah.
for all of the cards in that Afro Drip, I want the scene itself to convey the meaning before you even see the title.
Yeah.
And Seven of Swords is sort of a tricky, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
trickster card. So,
Yes.
you know, how do you
Absolutely.
illustrate that in a way
Yeah.
that acknowledges this can be thievery, this can be deception, this can be underhandedness, but also put a little bit of beauty into it? How do you do that? So,
Yeah.
asking myself that question, I thought about kind of like word association with like a
Mhm.
trickster, and I thought of cunning, and then I thought of, well, cunning can be smart,
Yep.
so what's cunning? And I thought of a fox. And it's really funny
Yep.
because one of my favorite tarot decks is the Muse Tarot by Chrisanne, and on
Oh,
her
I
seven of
adore it.
swords,
Yeah.
she has little fox heads. And I hadn't
Yes.
worked with that deck in a while. But I remember when I was working on the Seven of Blades, I was doing a reading for myself and I pulled it and I thought, yes, this is a sign.
Yep.
I should go with the fox. And
Yes.
I think that by putting an animal that is associated with sort of being sneaky, sort of being cunning,
Mhm.
but also doing what any of us do, living
Yeah.
to, you know, trying to survive with what it has. I
Yeah.
think that
Absolutely.
by like putting yes, the traditional thief, you know, with the blades and the backpack and
Mhm.
everything, I thought that by putting her there but next to a fox would kind of spur a little bit more thought about wider possible applications for the Seven of Swords beyond someone lying or stealing or being underhanded,
Yeah.
to thinking more in the term of if we look at the blades as being tangible representations of thought, communication, words, all the air stuff, um,
Yeah.
maybe she's being selective about what she's taking from what's available, or
Yeah.
perhaps she, for whatever reason, needs to keep her research a secret, and that's why she's not
Mhm.
doing it in the open. You know what I mean? I just kind
Yeah.
of wanted to spark a little bit more questions. So the blade suit in particular was really fun with that. I think just because I'm an air sign and I really love that suit. So it was challenging for sure. The whole project is a challenge, but it was fun because
Yeah.
I thought, you know, here's my opportunity to kind of expand what people might associate with the swords. So
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, because the Seven of Swords can be, it's a trickster card. I sometimes think of it as a Loki card, right? Like there's so
mhm.
many elements to it that can go either way. And I mean, I think so much of it has to do with resources too, and looking at what you're taking, what you're leaving behind, how you're balancing that for yourself, you know, because sometimes the best thing you can do is keep things close to your chest and be protective of them until it's time to let them out into the world, right? And so honoring that process and having that be one of the components of the cards is so powerful. And I love what you said about, yeah, the air signs, the swords can be challenging sometimes, but I don't know. Sometimes I get stuck in my head a lot, like classic Nine of Swords. And sometimes I'm unwilling or unable to look at something, but when I put it down on the table in front of me, like I pulled the Three of Swords this morning,
Mhm.
and it was to do with my relationship with my inner child. And it needs some major rehabilitation right now. Like I'm having trouble finding my joy and like all of these things. And somehow seeing it laying there in front of me, it was like an acknowledgement of the fact that, hey, yeah, it's kind of tough right now, but you know what? There's so much potential for
Right.
growth and for healing that comes on the other side of this card. And sometimes you need that acknowledgement that, yeah,
Mhm.
things are tough. But like you said, including those elements of beauty and potential for growth transforms that card from a simple, oh yeah, it's crappy right now, to, okay, yeah, acknowledging things are difficult, but there's so much room for expansion and growth and development. And yeah, and there's so much beauty in that. And I just love how you describe that. Yeah, that's amazing.
I appreciate.
Um, what was it like working with the coins?
So the coins, those were really fun too. I think the ace was definitely a challenge, because I wanted it to be my own illustration, but um,
Mhm.
you know, there's not a whole lot going on the Rider-Waite-Smith ace of Pentacles, and so it was a challenge because it's like, how do I pay homage to this original art that inspired me to do this when
Yeah.
the art itself is not very detailed and like there's not a whole lot to pull from, while also like pulling from that and making it my own. um,
Yes.
so that was a bit of a challenge, and I wound up using perspective, which I'm still not great at as an artist, but I decided to change the perspective so that we were kind of looking down at this garden scene with this big
Mhm.
coin floating above. And I thought that kind of gave me an opportunity to play up the growth and nature element of this card. So I put a couple of peacocks
Yeah.
like in the garden under some like leaf arches and stuff. And I think it turned out really pretty. So the ace was
Yeah.
really fun. I remember the two was really fun as well because I did a live stream while I was working on the two of coins, and
Mhm.
it was just really fun getting feedback as I was like in the very first rough stages. So it was actually a viewer on the live that helped me pick what actual pose I was going to go with because I was stuck between
Ooh.
two of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I felt like that was very poignant for the two of Pentacles because it's about it, to me, you know, being in flow and being able to adapt,
Yeah.
and prioritize and shift when you need
Mhm.
to. So that was really cool, and I think it was at that point that people started to notice I was incorporating symbolism not just from the Rider-Waite-Smith but also from the Thoth Tarot as well. Um, and because on the two of coins, there's a snake wrapped around the
Mhm.
dancer's leg, and she's
Yeah.
dancing on top of a yin and yang symbol, which I
Yeah.
got from the Thoth Tarot. So people were really enthusiastic about the two of coins. People really liked that one, and I still really like that one because it shows a
Yeah.
dancer do. I think the pose is called an arabesque, where her leg
Yeah.
is just straight up in the air, and she's sort of leaning back and the hand behind her has the one coin balanced on like the wrist, and the foot, the very top of her toe that she's doing the arabesque, has the second coin, and they're connected in that infinity loop. And something about the way her back is thrown back, it just looks like she's having so much fun to me.
Yeah.
Like I want to watch her dance, you know. So that was really, really fun. I mean, honestly, I think at that point, getting to the coins, I would have done, let's see, the 22 of the major arcana plus the 30 preceding. So having had 52 digital paintings under my belt, I think I really, at that point, had kind of hit a stride as an artist, because I kind of feel like that again now working on the courts. But I felt like the ideas were coming a little bit easier. I did have to take more breaks, because with those increased ideas, there were a lot more sessions where I would literally draw until I was like nodding with my stylus in my so I burnt myself out a bit more working on the coins, because there was more detail that I was able to put into the cards. And ironically, even though I felt really good as an artist, the end of the coins, which is really funny, once I got into the Virgo cards, see, now I'm noticing patterns. Once I got to 8 of coins, which is Sun in Virgo, I had this really weird feeling where, as a matter of fact, I'll pull up my 8 of coins so I can kind of help illustrate my point. I was so proud of that card in particular, because it was one of the most detailed cards I had ever done. But I was also kind of like, oh gosh, what if I made it too detailed? What if people don't feel like it fits with everything else that I've illustrated? And that was just because, like, there's so much in the background happening there.
I love that.
But like,
what a beautiful depiction, though. I love the amount of detail that you've included, because it honors the amount of work that goes into that, right? The Eight of Pentacles is all about work and building skills. And the fact that you have so many different elements included really is a testament to building on skill sets and increasing your work and building from one thing into the next, right? Like, I love that so much.
thank you. I appreciate that so much. Like, I'm in therapy, and I am very open about it, because I feel like everybody should have a good therapist. If you have access to it, our stupid medical system in America, if you have access to therapy, even if you don't know why you need it, just say that and they will help you figure it out. If you have a good therapist, get you a good therapist. Because my therapist, when I told her I was like really stressing and tripping over, like, what if it's too detailed? What if I did too much in this card? She made me show her my very first card and my second and my third. She made me go through them, and she said, Shaniqua, I can tell the same artist made this art. I can tell it is a part of the set. I know it has more detail, but didn't you just tell me that this card means working on something and being focused on the detail?
Oh my gosh, 100%. And it's so helpful when you have someone from outside your immediate experience, aka your brain, telling you, giving you that positive feedback and that reinforcement, right? Like, it's like laying down the cards. You need something external to remind you of what it is that are probably on some level, but it takes that supportive outside voice, right?
Yeah, and she's so good about it, because she she doesn't read tarot, so she's learned quite a bit about the cards and how readings are done. So anytime a card comes up that we haven't talked about before, she's like, so tell me what that means. And it was just so funny in that particular instance, because she was able to point out, you just defined this card in a way that perfectly fits what you've illustrated, so calm down.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And it's nice as a tarot reader talking to people who don't do tarot, because it gives you a unique perspective on what you created, right? When you're talking about what you've created in the context of something that you know intimately, but the other person doesn't, it almost gives you some unique insights on it that you might not have thought of, because you can't see the forest for the trees, if that makes sense. Like that. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, the coins really taught me to value my resources, being my time, my health, and my people, you know,
Yeah.
the perspectives and relationships around me. I know we typically associate that with cups. But really, while I was working on the blades, that was something that was sort of emphasized with me, because I consider the earth element to be the resources suit,
Yeah,
which is why I
absolutely.
named it coins, because I just felt like
Mhm.
pentacles, it's sort of an antiquated word. We don't
Yeah.
have a use for it in day to
Mhm.
day.
Yeah.
But you know, in vernacular, we could talk about coins, and everyone knows what we're talking about.
Mhm.
That's associated not just with money, but the time it takes to get it, and what you can get when
Yeah.
you have coins, and what your life is like when you don't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, coins are such a tangible resource, right? Everybody knows what that means, even if you're working with different currency, that
mhm,
coin meaning, that
exactly.
gold medallion is always
Mhm.
consistent, right?
Exactly. It
Yeah.
felt universal. It felt like something that would be easily understood, even if you're new to the tarot. So,
Yeah.
working on that suit really helped me understand what a resource can be and how important it is to manage what you have around you.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that. So what was it like working through all of the court cards in the major, or not the court cards, the major arcana cards? I want to touch on the court cards after, but yeah, what was that process of working from the Fool to the World card? And were there any particular cards that you felt, um, again, like I asked earlier, challenged by or drawn to or had a particular sense of fun working on? Or what was that like?
I was really excited to work on. I'm biased because like anything that I have in my birth chart, if there's a
Yeah.
corresponding card, I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to work on that. So obviously,
Yeah.
as a Gemini sun, I was excited to work on the lovers.
Yeah.
I was excited to work on the magician because it's
Yeah.
associated with Mercury, which is the ruling sign for Gemini, but also because I'm a life path one. So that's my corresponding life path card as well. And
Yeah.
I really wanted a super cool magician. And even though it was only the second card that I worked on, and mind you, before I started on the Fool, I had never done digital art before. So
Yeah.
I was really on my own fool's journey when I started this project. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I was really excited about the magician. I was terrified to do the tower, and the
Hmm.
tower was a very challenging card for me, mainly because I
Hmm.
didn't know if I could come up with a visually modern equivalent to
Hmm.
royals in robes and crowns falling out of a castle on a cliff. Like,
Yeah.
we don't see that, you know.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult for me to conceptualize of something that you could look at, whether you
Yeah.
were an experienced reader or a novice, and think, oh shit,
Mhm.
there's a disaster happening. Um,
I just pulled it up kind of on the Kickstarter here. My
mhm,
ring light's reflecting, but yeah, I love what you created here. That's a very tangible, very real world experience with the balcony and all
mhm,
the kind of mundane elements of furniture and stuff that you are so familiar with. And yet there's this chaos happening, which is so much associated with the tower, right? It's when the rug drops out from under you and the
mhm,
things that need to kind of fall away, fall away. And often that process is so difficult. It's one of those things I feel like it's like the check yourself before you wreck yourself card. Like it's like,
mhm.
what is it I need to pay attention to before the universe makes me? Like
Right,
it's like
right.
both thing, right?
And I love
Um,
that you said the things that need to fall away, because I renamed the tower
mhm.
the fall. So
Yeah,
I love that you said that, because that perfectly goes with the meaning.
yeah. No, I love that so much. Yeah, I mean, I just quickly pulled up the Kickstarter because I wanted to have a visual reference for the cards as you were talking. I've looked at so many of them as you've been working on them, but um, yeah, just having that visual reference is so strong. And again, I'm so in awe of your artwork and what you created here. Like there's such a tangible feel associated with each of these cards. It just draws you into the meaning, even if you don't know anything about tarot. When you see this High Priestess card, you know, it pulls you into that idea of knowledge and intuition and seership and connecting with those aspects of yourself that is so beautiful. Um, and so when it came, you're still working on the court cards.
Mhm.
what is that process like? I know court cards can be really challenging for a lot of people, myself included when I first started with tarot, because I know the traditional meanings are, okay, well, if it's this page, then they have these physical attributes and it's this quality and it's like that kind of person in your life. And it
Hmm.
wasn't until I started making a more personal association with each of the cards and seeing aspects of myself in it that I was able to really properly work with them. Because I think all of us have all of the archetypes within us, whether it's, a page of cups or a knight of swords or, a queen of pentacles, we all have that in us in some capacity, right? So, yeah, what was your approach with the court cards? How are you finding working through all of that? What's that process been like?
Um, so I completely agree with you. I know, everyone has their own way to read tarot, and I honor that, but I've never been comfortable with the idea of Queen of Swords means a bitter, divorced older woman type of reading.
Yeah.
I'm someone with a fairly small social circle in real life, so there just aren't that many physical people around me to fit all of those
Yeah.
different very specific archetypes. So when I started to read tarot, the court cards were something that I struggled with, just like you said, because I thought I had to stick to the, dictionary definitions of what these cards meant. But once I started working on that Afro Drip Tarot and I got to the 10 of Scepters,
Mm-hmm.
I just sort of knew I wasn't ready to illustrate the courts.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I wanted to illustrate the courts together, kind of like I had done Ace through 10. I wanted to do all the
Mm-hmm.
pages, all the nights, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I got to that 10 of Scepters, I sort of gave myself permission to break form from doing it in order the way I had envisioned before. And
Yeah.
so I waited until I finished all the pips to start on the pages. And
Mm-hmm.
the pages were really fun because I consider the pages to be like students, right? I actually named
Yeah.
the pages students in my
Mm-hmm.
deck. So student of blades, student of vessels, etc.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to put something in each illustration that would show that curiosity and innocence and maybe lack of experience of a page, but also the sort of groundedness of the earth
Mm-hmm.
element, because I associate pages with earth. So for me, the way I read, every court card is double elemented.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
kind of wanted to honor those double elements, and I felt like finishing all 40 pips and all 22 majors, I was artistically ready to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The pages were really fun. I challenged myself with the queens. I actually decided to skip the
Yeah.
knights because it was just, I was having like a lot of self-doubt about like, can I render a convincing horse? Like, who wants
Mm-hmm.
to help me draw a horse? I don't know if I can do that. Maybe it should
Yeah.
be a speedboat or a motorcycle, but can I even draw a motorcycle? I don't know. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
told myself I'm gonna just give myself some more grace and
Yeah.
put the knights off. But having finished the pages and all the queens, um, it just felt right to start on the knights. And I'll actually do like a little reveal. He's not done. I know I have the color version of the black and white knight that I showed on my story.
That is so exciting. Yeah, and I think too, sometimes when you're trying to equate, it can be helpful to equate specific court archetypes to someone in your life, but that can also be a bit of a block in working with that card. Like if you associate
Mm-hmm.
someone who you find challenging, let's say, as I did with the Queen of Swords, it took a long time for me to be comfortable whenever that card would come up because it brought to mind that particular person who I've had challenges with. And it wasn't until I started claiming some aspects of the Queen of Swords for myself and looking at those aspects of myself that I can actually pull the card and work with it now. Like it's so interesting how that works, right?
Mm-hmm. So I don't have the full color sketch on here.
Yeah,
I saved it like on my iPad, and my
yeah,
camera is from my iPad, but I do
yeah.
have the like main reference that the Knight of Scepters
Ooh.
is on. So it's
Oh,
basically gonna look
amazing.
like this, but the sky is a gradient of like deep red to like a light kind of
Oh,
coral, and of course he's
I love
holding a
that.
scepter instead
Yeah,
of orange, and then I incorporated the 3 pyramids that are on the back of the Rider-Waite Smith, but they're
Yeah.
much bigger, so they're coming kind of like up behind him like that.
Oh, I love that.
I'm really, really happy with how it looks so far, which is really helping me to feel confident for the rest of the nights, because I actually made rough sketches for all 4 of them at the same time, which is something I just started doing with the queens. So I'm refining my process and, you know, still developing as an artist, even at this stage. But it feels so surreal because I'm gonna have a finished deck, and you know, hopefully it will be funded on Kickstarter, and then there will be physical, tangible copies somewhere. And I've chosen to print it in a way that's going to be very unique. It's going to be on plastic cardstock with a semi-transparent 1/4-inch border going around the edges, but the actual
I love that so much.
They're going to be gilded, so it's going to sparkle with this. I'm so excited, and I just feel like by giving myself the grace to put the court cards after the pips and sort of rearrange the court cards according to where I felt comfortable, it's just allowed the process to remain organic, even though there's obviously structure to it. And you know, I think separating the courts from the pips was really important. Because, you know, they say when you make a tarot deck, you sort of relearn it in a much more visceral way, each card you work on. And I can definitely
absolutely. And
so it was really important to honor the courts as being, you know, not just 4 more pips, but these really full personas that, like you said, we all have, in a way that, like, I just wanted it to be fun, but like accessible, no matter how you read them. And I feel like they're ready, or I shouldn't say they're ready. I feel like I'm ready for them to come through me. If I had tried to bring them through just because of the order of the deck before I was ready, I think I would have made something that I was unhappy with, or it just wouldn't have been right. You know, it just wouldn't have been right. So the courts have sort of reinforced for me authenticity, like being able to be real with myself and act on that internal realness of, like, yeah, you said you were going to do it this way, you wanted to do it this way, but you're in the now, and that's not what you need. So be that Knight of Scepters and, like, go your own way, and it'll be fine.
And trusting in yourself and trusting in that process and letting go of feeling like it needs to be a certain way. I mean, that's huge, right? And I feel like that's a big part of the creative process too, right? You try and manipulate or control it. For a minute, I think we're good now.
Yeah.
Oh, Pippin, quiet. Okay, so I'm gonna let him out. He's okay. I think someone just came in from outside, so he gets really worked up whenever there's an interloper in the house, even if it's one of us. Yeah, and I was just saying, I think it's really important to trust that process, right? And let go of needing to feel like it needs to be a certain way. And it's so interesting with the courts because, yes, they're part of the minor arcana and they continue the journey from the aces through to the tens, but they're also their own entity. Like, it's very separate and very different from the form of the 1 to 10 cards. So I think it's really amazing to look at it as its own thing. And also, like, each suit is unique and different, but there are through lines with each of the pages and the knights and the queens and the kings. I did, Kimberly Tan has an amazing court card course that I did a few years ago, and that was what really helped me shift my perspective on the courts. And she looks at it not just by suit, but also by position, I guess, like pages, knights, queens, and kings. And it was really helpful for me to see that through line between the suits, because they're all unique and different, but there are those similarities. So being able to do them all at the same time, I feel like there's like an evolution and organic process that happens with that. That's really magical. That's really, really cool. Um, so yeah, I wanted to ask you about the cards themselves because they are unique and different and special with that clear border and the fact that you're printing them on plastic with the gilded edges. I know we talked about that a little bit in our last live, but what inspired you to take that approach with them, and what was the process like of finding a printer and figuring out how that was going to come about? Like, what was that all like for you?
So I think, okay, so I have the Moonchild Tarot by Danielle Noel. It's a very
Yep.
popular deck. Uh, you probably know it. It's
Yes.
beautiful and it's so gorgeous. And I was
Yes.
traveling with it one time, and I had pulled some cards in the morning, and I
Mhm.
like to leave my cards out on my desk if I can, just so I kind of have them there to remind me of what spirit and I talked about during the
Mhm.
day. And
Yeah.
so I had done that, but I was, in a hotel room, and I had a drink from somewhere, and I sat it like sort of diagonally away from my cards. I remember specifically thinking, let me just sit this over here, so even if I knock it, it's not going to ruin my cards. I left my
Yeah.
hotel room for a little while. I came back, and the condensation from the cup made a straight line diagonally across my
Oh,
desk and
no.
soaked my strength card from the Moonchild Tarot.
Oh,
Soaked it. It went straight to it. It was like it was magnetically drawn, and I was devastated.
oh, that is devastating. And that's not an easy deck to track down because it's an indie deck. It's not mass market. So the price point is
Exactly.
higher. It's harder to track down. Like, oh my gosh. And how ironic that it's a strength card like that. Oh my
I
goodness.
tried to take a lesson from that, but I was so hurt. And another one of my favorite decks is the Lightseer's Tarot by Chris Ann.
Yeah.
And a similar situation. It wasn't. I didn't leave my cards, but I knocked some coffee over and got it on
Oh,
two of my cards in a spread. Luckily, I was, I snatched them up and
yeah.
wiped them off real quick, and they didn't warp,
Yeah.
and they were actually fine.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic.
but the fear of like waiting for them
Yes.
to dry and seeing
Oh
if
my
they were going to
goodness.
warp,
Yeah.
I decided that I wanted to save people from ever having that kind of anxiety.
Yeah.
Plus, the very first tarot.
There's a bit of an issue. Hi, I think the sound, okay, sound's back now. Great. I blinked out for a moment.
I'm so sorry. I have to take a phone call. Give me just 1 second. So sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so I just pulled up the Kickstarter for the That Afro Drip. So if you're looking for it, oh, sorry, the ring light's super annoying. On Kickstarter, this is what the main page looks like, and you can have a preview of each of the minor arcana cards here. There we go. It's scrolling, and then there's detailed picture of each of the suits. There's the scepters or wands going into the vessels or cups. And then I believe the next one, yeah, blades and the coins. So you can take a look and get a perspective on what each of the cards looks like. And the illustrations, like I just can't say enough good things. We were talking a little bit about the Two of Pentacles earlier, and it's that dancer in arabesque, and the two coins and the beautiful background. What I love so much about this deck is it feels so tangible. I feel like I could step into that scene and interact with the people depicted there. Like it's such a lovely, yeah, depiction of a slice of life in the, I think it's, yeah, the Six of Coins. There's a woman walking down the street, and I feel like that could happen in any big city in North America or really anywhere. It's super exciting. And as Shaniqua was saying, all the cards are printed on they're plastic cards, and they've got a clear border with gold gilding around it, which is really, really lovely and unique and really special. Just a sec, I'm just gonna let my pup in. He always has to be part of everything. So yeah, and The deck is currently funding on Kickstarter. I believe the final date is
June 29th.
Wednesday, June 29th. Yeah.
I am so
This is
sorry about that. I had a parent RSVPing for my daughter's birthday party, so I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, of course. Oh, that's exciting. What else do you have planned for it?
So we have a pretty big yard. So I got, well, my mom bought this, like one of those frame pools. It's not inflatable, but you know, it's transportable,
Yeah.
but it's really big. It's like 12-foot diameter, 30 inches deep. So we're gonna have that set up for the kids. And there's also like this blow up water rock climbing wall with like a water slide and like a lagoon. So any kiddies who don't want to get in deep water, they're going to be able to splash in that. And we're going to have like pizza. I'm going to make cakesicles. So I'm really excited for that because I love cake pops, but I'm
Yes.
greedy. So every time I eat a cake pop, I'm like, it should have been bigger. I want more. So I'm going to make cakesicles and I feel like that's going to be yummy.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That is so fun. It'll be super fun for the kids too, because the whole concept of like popsicles in the summer is incredible. What flavor are you doing?
My daughter said she wants to do different flavors, so we're probably gonna do strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate, kind of like Neapolitan.
Ooh, I love that.
You know, like individual ones. And I got like gold edible dust, and I got these acrylic reusable like cake popsicle sticks with gold foil glitter inside of them. I saw them on Amazon. I was like, I don't need that. I really only need the super cheap like 50-cent wooden popsicle sticks, but these have gold glitter in them. And so
glitter makes everything better. Oh my goodness. And you can reuse them next year too. It can be a birthday tradition. Oh, I love it. That sounds like it's going to be so much fun. Oh my goodness. So where are you located? I'm in Nova Scotia.
Oh, okay.
East Coast.
I'm in Maryland. I'm actually 20 minutes, if that, outside of Washington, D.C. So are we
Technical glitches. Yeah, you mentioned Maryland and then I lost everything after that. I'm so sorry.
Sorry about that. I'm in Southern Maryland, so I'm like 20 minutes, if that, outside of Washington, D.C. So I'm really close to the capital.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, we stopped in Baltimore on our RV travels, and actually that was kind of the stopping point because we ran into some RV damage and it was like a whole thing. But I remember, yeah, Baltimore is lovely and it's so close to DC and everything else. And yeah, oh, that's really cool.
And they like there's a huge aquarium up in Baltimore. It's like really beautiful. If you ever get a chance to come back this way, the Baltimore Aquarium is an experience. It's really wonderful.
Sounds amazing. Yeah. Well, it's not, I mean, it is a bit of a drive from where we're at, but we're on the right coast and it's not particularly far. We've been car free for a couple of years now. Oh, hello.
Hi.
Happy
This is my little tiny twin. She said happy almost birthday. Say thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's so exciting. It's going to be so much fun. Your mom was just telling me what you have planned. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, and when my mommy was talking about the aquarium, I got to touch a jellyfish there.
You did touch a jellyfish, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Yeah, we get to quite a few and they're fun.
Look at you. Okay, baby, come on, step over here. I'll be better. She loves being on camera. She wants to actually have a YouTube channel when she gets older. And she's so incredible. I know I'm like in mommy mode now, but like me doing my art on my iPad. So ever since she was like 3, she's downloaded the same painting app that I use on her iPad. And she draws every single day. Now she makes animations, and she picked out her YouTube channel name. She's like, you know, it's gonna be Leafy Blob Animates, and like she's got this whole. It's amazing. Like I want to be like her when I grow up.
That is incredible. Oh my God, I hear you. My eldest is 14, and she has gotten really into illustrating over the last year. and she learned most of what she knows by watching YouTube videos. But I shared some fan art that she did a little while ago of Inej and the Six of Crows. My girls are obsessed with the Six of Crows, especially, but the whole Grishaverse right now is like all Grishaverse all the time. And so she did some fan art of Inej, and I shared it to my Instagram because I just was so impressed by her skill set. Like I can draw stick figures. I mean, I've drawn a few things that were all right, but really, like, it's so amazing when you look at your kids and what they're capable of doing and their source of inspiration. And she follows a lot of people on YouTube, and I've kind of suggested to her that eventually she might like to set something up. And my son's really interested in that as well. He's more into Minecraft than drawing, but I think he's like a walking encyclopedia, and he's got all the social skills. I feel like he would really, he's only 10 now, so maybe, in a few years, but it's so cool to see what inspires them and to see what they're capable of, and to be inspired by that, right? It's really amazing.
I love it because it reminds me of things that I liked when I was younger, but also, like I said, the only constant is change. It really, to me, kids show the beauty of change because you see yourself in them in a new generation. And it's just like, you get to wonder at them and just really be in awe of like this life you created teaching you. It's just, I could go.
Oh my goodness. Oh, 100%. I homeschool my kids, and I learn probably more from them than they ever will from me in a different sense, like it's amazing.
Trying, they're living and they're living little teachers. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what does she think of this tarot deck that you're creating? She must have seen you creating all of the different elements and stuff. So what's her take on it?
Mayumi, how do you feel about my tarot deck? I think she likes it.
It's really good. It's the best good.
I would second that 100%.
Thank you. She's really it's really cute. When she was younger, we used to make like tarot stories. I would pull cards. Are you familiar with the Happy Tarot by Serena Ficha?
Yes.
I love that deck. It's one of my absolute favorites. It actually was part of what made me say I want that Afro Drip Tarot to be really bright because it's so bright and vibrant. But I also feel like because the illustrations are so cutesy and chibi-like, they're good for all ages. So she and I used to make little stories using cards from the Happy Tarot. And so, and I have a copy of Miss Teresa's Tarot for Kids. I have a copy of that as well. She's more into like her animation and stuff now, but hopefully, when she gets older, if she, needs the same things that we need in that, externalization of a struggle or something, I hope that she'll, maybe consider turning to the tarot because her mama has a little bit of experience and, it's helped me. So, and she has so much in common with me that I could definitely see as she develops and just gets more world experience. The wisdom she would bring to the cards would just be impeccable. So I'm really excited to see if/when she becomes a reader because I think I'll learn so much more just from her.
Absolutely. That's incredible. Oh, so exciting and so fun to be able to pass that down to her. Do you know what I mean? And exchange that information and see what kind of insight she has on it. That's amazing. And I love too, just coming back to that Afro Drip, that you've included so many astrological elements in the cards too. Like that's really fascinating to me because I've really incorporated a lot of astrology into my practice. And so having those reference points is really helpful. I have the 8th House Tarot, and Sarah has included a lot of, it was all astrological associations with it. And it's really helpful to have that reference point. There are a few points in my chart that aren't in the tarot, so I always feel a bit sad about that. But then when I see one that is reflected in my chart, I'm like, oh, this is so exciting.
But you know what I do for placements there's not like a Saturn in Aquarius card. What I do for that, it's sort of a little exercise that I use to help me understand my birth chart because I learned tarot well before I started dabbling in astrology. So astrological correspondences on the cards kind of helped me to understand the positions in charts.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think, what's a good example? So like I have my moon in Capricorn. I don't
Mm-hmm.
believe there is a moon in Capricorn card. So in that instance, I would use Sun in Capricorn if there was one,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm trying to think. I don't think there's a Sun in Capricorn. Oh, no, yes, there is. Four of coins is Sun in Capricorn, if I'm not mistaken. So I would use Sun in Capricorn and pair that with the Moon card, and use that as an interpretation. Or what is the Capricorn Major Arcana card? Because it's so funny. The 22 cards perfectly have the 10 planets and the 12 zodiac signs. So there is a card. It's just blanking on me right now.
Oh, the devil, right?
The devil.
Yeah.
How did I forget that? So, okay. So that would actually, to me, be a better representation because it's just Capricorn rather than planet in Capricorn. So I would combine Capricorn, the Capricorn card being the devil or inducement in that Afro Drip Tarot. So I would combine inducement with the High Priestess, because the High Priestess is associated with the moon, whereas the moon card in the tarot is associated with Pisces. So it could work, but in that example, for my moon and Capricorn placement, I would combine High Priestess with inducement, or, you know, High Priestess with devil, and interpret those two cards together and see how that applies to moon and Capricorn. And
I love that.
Fun. I've never done that with that particular placement for myself, but now that I have figured out what cards they are, it makes so much sense. Because, you know, High Priestess.
Volume. Oh, there we go. You're back.
Yeah, like the High Priestess to me is knowledge, but it's kept knowledge, you know. She's less a teacher and more so a holder, a downloader. I describe the High Priestess as someone who might point you into the right direction, but she will not tell you what to look for. And inducement, or the devil, that's all about like learning the balance of power dynamics, so that you don't give yourself over to your baser desires, or allow someone else's baser desires to take over you, or to be so lost in hedonism or seeking pleasure that you don't see the problems with that. And so the quietness of High Priestess with the needing to learn the balance of power in the devil or inducement, to me, really speaks to my lived experience with having a Capricorn moon, because one of the defining characteristics in my experience is the difficulty of expressing emotions, especially really difficult emotions. And that quietness of the knowing of the High Priestess with balancing of, you know, difficult power dynamics perfectly to me speaks to that Capricorn Saturnian nature filtering through the emotional landscape. It's that's really cool.
I love it so much. I have my moon in Scorpio, so that would be a combination. I'm not sure if there is a moon in Scorpio card. I don't think so. But that would be the Death card and the High Priestess, which makes a lot of sense as well, because it's those cycles of letting go and rebirth and renewal. And I've definitely experienced that in so many levels, especially emotionally over the course of my life. So it's really interesting to see how that plays out for you in relation to the tarot. It's really quite fascinating.
I think that's a really cool exercise to learn the cards more, but also understand astrology in a new way. Because, you know, astrology is such a deep topic that you can pick one aspect of it and dive into it for years. So having
Absolutely. That's
correspondences.
what I love so much about tarot and astrology is that I can learn about this till the day I die, and there's always something more to explore, another aspect of it to explore, and I'll never run out of materials, you know, or perspectives or unique looks. Like there's a whole series of books on mythical astrology and looking at astrology through the lens of Greek mythology and Roman mythology, and I love that so much because I've studied that extensively with my kids, and so being able to juxtapose that feels really powerful for me, and it's like a unique perspective that opens up my curiosity in new ways.
I totally agree. I had accidentally muted myself, but yeah, it's like you were saying before. Anyone who doesn't read tarot, they automatically just bring such fresh perspectives
Yes.
to the cards because they're not biased in any way. They can
Mhm.
literally just read them without even knowing they're reading the cards. It's really, really
Yeah.
cool. I love that, and I really hope that with coming back to that Afro drip, one of the things that was really important to me when I was deciding what to illustrate was I wanted
Mhm.
these images to give off those meanings, even
Mhm.
if you are not a tarot reader. Um,
Yeah.
just because to be honest, part of the goal in making that Afro drip tarot available to the public was I want to help diversify the tarot community. It's definitely
Absolutely.
become more diverse over the last like 5 or 6 years. But I still know Black people that when they hear I read tarot cards, they think it has something to do with the devil. Um, and even people who want to be respectful and are curious about my practice and my beliefs, there's so much conditioned I don't want to say hate, but like in
Fear
my
for
community
sure.
in particular, yeah, there's so much fear conditioning around
Mhm.
anything that is not given to you in this package, in this format.
Yeah.
And I think it's true of anything that
Yeah.
the more perspectives that are added to it, the richer it becomes.
Yeah.
And I think for my community in particular, there's a lot of merit to using a visual library of
Mhm.
human experience archetypes
Mhm.
for introspection or what have you, because that's not as often. It's not a common
Yeah.
practice spiritually, from in my community. It's much more common to go to church every week and maybe Bible
Yeah.
study another day a week, and um,
Yeah.
there's definitely value and merit in those types of spiritual practices. But I think that when your religion or the dogma that you follow demonizes alternative spirituality without any encouragement to be curious but also skeptical just to find out what it is, then
Yeah.
you're ultimately just limited in what you can, like how many blessings you can get if you're just closed
Mhm.
off to like only this avenue. And I think that
Mhm.
if people see people on tarot cards with cornrows or dreadlocks or
Yeah.
curvy hips and thicker lips, and like it's not just one or two cards in a deck, but this deck was
Mhm.
made with you in mind. My
Yeah.
hope is that there will be people who can say that Afro Drip Tarot was my first tarot deck because it was the first one I saw that I felt like was for me. So
Oh, absolutely. It's like, I think the fact that it's such a slice of life, right? Like you're showing depictions of people that you could see anywhere doing anything, right? That feels accessible to your own lived experience. And I think that from an outsider looking in, it's so the idea of representation is important. It reminds me of a video of a little boy who saw Encanto and saw himself in, I can't remember the character, the youngest, Antonio, I think it is.
mhm.
And being able to see yourself represented in something, especially something as esoteric as tarot, takes the fear away, right? If you
Mhm.
can see something that you can relate to your own lived experience, then it takes it away from this arcane kind of devil worship perspective and brings it into something that feels more accessible. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I feel like
yeah.
it can feel, if you don't see yourself in it at all, it can feel
Mm-hmm.
very alien and foreign
Yeah.
and you know, taboo and prohibited.
Yeah.
Especially if, you know, you're someone like me. Like by the time I started working on that Afro Drip Tarot, I had over 35 decks in my collection, and only 2 of them
Yeah.
were made by other Black people.
Yeah.
So if you're someone like me and you've bought 3 decks, 4 decks, 10
Yeah.
decks, 20 decks, some people would just give up and think maybe this
Yeah.
isn't for me, or maybe I should not expect to see myself in this thing, even though I've chosen it for myself. And I think that's wrong. I just don't think that should
Absolutely.
stand. So, you know, I just kind of said, oh, hi, Roberta. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, it just, like you said, it normalizes it. It makes it much more approachable. And it's sad that, you know, we are where we are in time and we still have to have these kinds of conversations. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I think it can be a point of optimism
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, what if the status quo just wasn't changing? What if I never
Yeah.
thought I have the right to make a tarot deck? Because, you know, before I had made that decision, I did kind of wonder, who am I to make a deck of cards? There's plenty of decks available. Why would anybody need mine? But, you know, people do. So,
Oh, we absolutely do. I mean, this deck is phenomenal and it's unlike anything that has been created before, and it's uniquely created by you, which makes it extra special, full stop. But then you look at the artwork that you've created and the slice of life perspective that you created, and it's so easy to connect with the cards in a way that maybe was inaccessible before because it is modern and it's depicting your cultural experience, and you can look at the cards and see yourself represented there. And I think that is so important. And I'm grateful that there's more of that in the community, but there's always space for and room for expansion. And, you know, I really, the more I practice, the more I gravitate towards decks that include folks from all different aspects of life, sexual orientation, gender orientation, cultural backgrounds, because of that idea of representation. And I feel like you connect more deeply with the practice of tarot when you can see yourself in it. Do you know what I mean? When you pull out a deck and you pull out a card and it looks like, oh, I can relate to that because that's part of my own experience, right? And I feel so passionate about representation because of that very reason, right? Like it's, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, even outside of the, you know, ethnic or racial aspect of it, you know, there are people who adore black and white decks where,
Yeah.
you know, they could be gifted the most popular, you know, color deck and just
Yep.
not get
Yep.
what they need from it.
Yes.
And so I think that it it's it really makes me feel humbled and like honored and moved when people say, like, you know, they agree that there's a need for what I've made, and that they do see it being a tool to represent broader swaths of people and bring them into the community. Because, you know, it feels so, I don't want to say impossible, but when you put it, when you say it out loud, like, I want to help diversify the community, it's kind of like, you want to what? Like, how? That's a huge thing, you know. But then when I actually have conversations with people who have looked at my art, who read the cards, and I hear it reflected back to me that, like, no, it's you're doing what you set out to do. It just really makes me feel validated because, you know, it can be scary, like putting something
Yeah.
like this out, especially on a platform, pardon me, like Kickstarter, where if I raise $1 less than the goal amount I've set, I won't get funded, and no money will change hands, and, you know, I'll cry for a few weeks. But I think having, like I was saying before, just being able to have conversations like this, where it's not just me thinking, oh, maybe someone out there would like it, but getting to see your face and hear your voice while you tell me why you agree that this is something that the community could benefit from. It just
100%.
it's such a validation, and it feels so good because like I was saying, everybody needs a good therapist. My therapist is like right here with me on the Kickstarter campaign. And I actually had a therapy session earlier today, and she was
Yeah.
asking me, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Yeah.
How's the campaign going? And I was a little sad because the
Yeah.
first week there was huge momentum. Like the Kickstarter gives
Yeah.
you graphs, and like my graph was
Yeah.
like this. It went like almost straight up. But then the
Yeah.
second week it was kind of like, it's still going up, but it's basically at the same level. And I was sad, and I was like, I have a plan. I'm gonna reach out to more people and try to get
Mhm.
the images of the cards in front of more people. But
Yeah.
it was a little bit depressing for a second. But she reminded me that it's not over until it's over. And
Yeah.
she said, you've still got more than 2 weeks. And,
Yes.
as long as I show up for myself and I still, reach out to people and make the connections that are available to me, then at
Mhm.
least at the end of the campaign, whether it's funded or not, I will know I've shown up for myself and I'll have learned from that.
Yeah.
So even if it doesn't get funded through Kickstarter, I've already started, conceptualizing of, okay, so what would a pre-order, just done on my own website look like? How would I structure
Yeah.
that? So at some point, that Afro Drip Tarot, as conceptualized on plastic cardstock with spot gloss and a transparent border and all that,
Yep.
will be in the world.
Absolutely.
So, but having people around me, my therapist, lovely folks like yourself, Jules, it just, when it gets hard and I want to quit and just say,
Yeah.
F it, I'll finish the art, but I'm just going to print one copy for myself. It's like, no, at this point, you would be taking it away from people who have waited for
Yes.
years. So you can't do
Absolutely
that.
would. This deck needs to be out in the world. It is absolutely incredible. Like, I've been following along with your work for over a year now, and I get so excited whenever you post a new card, and I'm just in awe of what you created with this, and it absolutely needs to be out in the world. And I think the world of your work and the concept that you've put together and everything. And I mean, Kickstarter can be a tricky beast. It's a weird thing because there's some decks that take off right away, and there's other decks that don't take off right away. And I have some friends in the community that have been funded and haven't been funded, and it's such a crapshoot to know. And it's no reflection on the artist creating the deck. It's just a weird beast. It's like Instagram. Like, there's certain algorithms and there's certain whatever. So, it's no reflection on anything. And like you said, you have over 2 weeks, and I'm happy to get the word out to as many people as I can, because I really think you've created something magical and really special with this. And
Thank
I am
you.
so excited to work with it and feel those cards and like see them up close in person. And it's truly special. And I'm in awe of what you've created, quite honestly. And
Thank you.
yeah.
And it was tough. Like it's so funny. I just realized earlier you asked me about like finding a manufacturer and touch on that aspect of it. It was so, for a long time, I didn't think I would be able to get it printed the way I want to.
Yeah.
Because my very first tarot deck was the Golden Thread Tarot by Tina Gong, and that's on plastic cardstock, and it shuffles so beautifully.
Yes.
And there's, all the line art is gold foiling, so I knew it was possible to get gold foil on plastic.
Yeah.
But I reached out to so many manufacturers who told me, well, we can print on plastic, but we can't do the gold foil. Or we can print the gold foil on the face of the cards, but not on the edge.
Yeah.
Or, we could do traditional, like thick GSM paper cardstock with gold foiling, but not plastic. I just got so many,
Yeah.
we can do this, but not that part of it.
Yeah.
And it was kind of discouraging because it's the deck
Yeah.
is also going to have spot UV gloss. So some parts of the art are going to be shiny, whereas the rest will be matte.
Yeah.
So I just wanted it to be really, really special. I wanted even the physical construction to stand out, from the crowd.
Yes.
And so many people told me, nope, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. And I lose count of how many manufacturers I reached out to, but finally one of my messages was responded to, and they said, yeah, we can manufacture it just like you want. We can print it on the frosted semi-transparent plastic. We'll leave a 1/4 inch unprinted on for your border. We can get the gold gilt edging. We can do the spot UV gloss. And I was like,
Oh, that's so exciting.
So they're gonna, you know, their engineer is gonna help me design the box and the guidebook and everything.
Oh,
So
love that.
I'm determined because I feel like that particular set of specifications for the printing is like the bow on the package, knowing I
Mhm.
can spill coffee and my cards won't be ruined.
Yes. You're
And
not
they
going to
will
leave your
just,
strength card in the process. It's going to stick
yes.
to you.
So
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. And it's such a unique concept too, because I haven't actually seen clear cards like that. I mean, I'm sure there's other decks out there like that. I just haven't personally encountered it yet. So when you told me about that concept the first time you spoke, I was so excited because it's so unique and it's special and it makes this deck even more special. It's fancy, it's gilded, it's like, yeah, it's got all those. I'm so glad that you were able to find a manufacturer that was able to incorporate all of those elements that you wanted, because I know from our first conversation how excited you were about it, and I was excited about it. So I'm so glad you were able to make it happen. That's really
yeah,
wonderful.
I was almost ready to give up. Like after so
Yeah,
many telling me, "Oh, we can't do that," I started to think
yeah,
maybe I've chosen a set of specifications that are not possible to manufacture. Um,
yeah,
but I just said, no, I'm just going to keep sending messages. I know this can be done because I have the golden thread tarot. So somebody's going to tell me we can get that gilding on the edge. And
yeah.
it just, plus, you know, they're going to be oversized, so they're going to be oracle sized as
Mhm.
well.
Oh,
And
nice.
I think what I'm most excited about, and this is kind of funny, but I can't wait to see the deck stacked up so I can
Yeah.
see what that transparency looks like in the whole
Oh,
78 set against that
yes.
gilded edge. I just think it's going to
Oh,
look really cool when the cards
yeah.
are all together. I'm so
Yep.
excited.
Oh, it's going to be incredible. I'm so excited about it too. I can't wait. Yeah, no, this is amazing.
And I
Um,
really wanted people to be able to like see all the details and everything. One of my favorite tarots is the Shadowscapes tarot, and the illustrations are super detailed, but they're, you know, traditional tarot card size, and they have a
yeah,
border. So some of the
yeah,
details you really have to hold the card super close and kind of squint to see them.
yeah. Bring the
But
magnifying
they
glass
really
out to get all
add.
the detailing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
those little details really add to the overall meaning of the card, in my opinion.
Oh, they
So I felt
do.
like going with oracle size cards would give enough like physical real estate that hopefully, you know,
Mhm.
nobody will have to like squint or hold them up really close because they're
Yeah.
larger than traditional tarot.
Mhm.
And you know, hopefully they'll pop enough that even
Yeah.
like my eight of coins, which I was really worried because of the detail, hopefully even that one will be like easily readable.
Oh, I love the detail that you've included in that. I mean, it's incredible. And it really speaks to the concept, as I said before, of building on something and incorporating those building blocks, right? Like so often it's about honing your craft and building on what you've learned before. And I just love that this card, oh, this stupid ring light, incorporates all of that. You know, it really captures the meaning of that card beautifully. I love it so much.
I appreciate that so much. I was so worried about putting her in like an office rather than
Yeah,
outside, but I felt like
yeah,
her desk with the coins above it kind of
yeah.
gave that same shape that's on the Rider
Mhm.
Waite Smith Eight of Pentacles. So
Absolutely.
it's it
This
gave
is
me
more,
stress, but I loved it.
yeah, well, this is more, I think, in tune with most people's work experiences now, right? I mean,
Hmm.
there are people that do work outside, but not so much in the traditional sense that's depicted on the original Eight of Pentacles, right? So
Hmm.
this makes a lot of sense and it modernizes it beautifully, and it includes those building blocks and that sense of honing your skills and your focus and all of that. I really love
Hmm.
that.
Thank
It's
you.
amazing. Well, I just noticed what time it is. I've captured your time for an hour and a half, and I appreciate it so much that you have come to chat with me, that we've been able to talk more about this deck. I can't, I mean, I've said this repeatedly, but I'm so excited about it. And this is just, it's incredible. And thank you for coming and joining me for this. It's amazing. So in addition to the Kickstarter and your Instagram, you also have a website for That
Mhm.
Afro Drip as well. Yeah, so I'll include that when I share the video, and then people can access both that and the Kickstarter. I'll see what I can do about links for both of those. And
Okay.
yeah,
And the
and
Kickstarter is actually
sorry,
The Kickstarter campaign is actually linked on thatafrodriptarot.com.
Oh,
So
perfect.
if you can't link both of them, the website link should
Okay.
be sufficient. So
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. That's really good to know. Well, thank you again for joining me. That's amazing. And I hope you have a wonderful birthday party tomorrow. That sounds absolutely magical. It's going to be so much fun.
thank you.
So exciting.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. I feel like two Geminis, we could just talk all day, but this was really fun. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
So much fun. Thank you. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. And for anyone who has missed our entire chat, I'll be sharing this on IGTV so you can catch up with it later.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
My
Have
birthday.
a good weekend.
Bye
Yeah, you as well.
bye.
Thank you. Bye.